Urgent! Ukraine is liberating cities and villages. A southern breakthrough in the armed forces of Ukraine. Putin's generals are in shock. Now or never, the trap has snapped shut. The armed forces of Ukraine have begun a great deoccupation that has shaken the Kremlin. Ukrainian flags are already in the sky. It all happened in a matter of hours. Crimea and Donbas, get ready. The path to the Sea of Azov is being scorched by the fire of vengeance, an impenetrable shield. The sky is locked down, a historic turning point. Ukraine is activating the Iron Dome. Secret mega missiles are already on the way. Flamingos and pelicans, they've gone on the hunt. Our engineers have worked a miracle. The new Ukrainian ballistic missiles are turning TLR to ashes, while secret lasers are cutting down Shaheds. This is a technological knockout that will deprive the enemy of their last chance. Nature against the Russian Federation, Moscow is disappearing from the maps. It has happened. A terrible disaster is tearing Russia apart. All this and more in our upcoming report. Hotspot. Urgent. The trap has snapped shut. Ukrainian flags are once again in the sky. The armed forces of Ukraine have begun the great deoccupation. The results are shocking. This happened in just a matter of hours. Crimea and Donbas, get ready. Ukraine's defenders are already blazing a path to the Sea of Azov. A catastrophe for Putin's generals. What is happening on the front lines right now? Watch now.
The armed forces of Ukraine can no longer be stopped. Our defenders have launched a counteroffensive. In an instant, the Russian front collapsed and the occupiers began to flee, abandoning more and more of the territories they had previously seized.
So, taking all of these factors into consideration,
recently, the focus of Ukrainian attacks has shifted to the immediate rear areas of the Russians in the occupied territories. The past week has been one of the most significant and successful in terms of the frequency and geography of strikes delivered against the enemy.
The losses suffered by the Russian armed forces each month are showing a negative trend. December, January, February, all of this is confirmed.
For example, our aviation and HIMARS MLRS are striking enemy positions, infantry and equipment of the occupiers in the Alexandrovsk direction. The Russian invaders have almost no chance of surviving such a massive strike. Absolutely none. And this is already the Zaporizhzhia direction. Here, a Kasta radar station was destroyed by Ukrainian drone systems. The geography of strikes during the Ukrainian armed forces counteroffensive is impressive. Our defenders managed to strike not only along the front line, but also behind enemy lines. Recently, Mariupol and Yalta have also been hit. There are explosions there. They don't stop. The Ukrainian armed forces are striking barracks, ammunition depots, deployment sites, and
the deployment features various air defense assets, including advanced surface-to-air missiles and radar systems designed to monitor the airspace for potential threats. Sophisticated air defense systems.
It's turning out to be a hot week for the occupiers in Tokmak and the surrounding areas. The occupied city is under such intense fire for the first time. It was here, before the strikes began, that the largest concentration of Russian rear reserves was gathered for offensives, maneuvering and attacks along the front line.
The armed forces of Ukraine have concentrated significant units, primarily airborne assault troops, which are the elite units of the armed forces of Ukraine. And they are conducting strategic operations from the north to the south in an effort to get behind the Russian military grouping that is currently operating to the west of the settlement of Hulyapol and disrupt their established supply lines.
There is no peace for Putin's army in Crimea either. There, Ukrainian defense forces struck hangars in Yevpatoria, where Russian troops stored and serviced multi-purpose drones, Forepost and Orion. By the way, the Ukrainian armed forces owe such outstanding strike effectiveness, among other things, to Ukrainian partisans secretly operating in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, as well as in Russia.
Pro-Ukrainian residents who were the first to win over across the territory of temporarily occupied Crimea, they put up all sorts of Ukrainian flags, Ukrainian symbols, and hung yellow ribbons. Later, this resistance grew stronger. They began to transmit, which is also confirmed, military coordinates, the resistance movement. These are military coordinates, military data.
Their intelligence is priceless, and each new act of sabotage becomes almost a personal slap in the face for the Kremlin and Putin. In
Klin, Moscow region, an Atesh agent destroyed a Livan mobile satellite communication complex. And
our local partisan groups have been carrying out such attacks on a very regular basis.
Members of the movement say that it was their actions and the information they gathered that made it possible for Ukraine to strike Crimea. In particular, according to Atesh, it was they who directed the Ukrainian missile strike on the Russian landing ship and submarine, Minsk and Rostov-on-Don, as well as the attack on the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in September 2023. And
Ukrainian partisans from the resistance have already paralyzed a key railway in Luhansk, which has dealt a serious blow to the supply lines of the Russian armed forces Pokrovsk group. Now the partisans are actively helping our defenders with the spring counteroffensive.
They have united and are carrying out active actions within the partisan movement. It is specifically in the military sphere that they
actively engage in the execution of sabotage at military facilities, as well as conduct so-called terrorist acts, systematically eliminating high-ranking occupation officials both in recently seized and occupied territories and in the temporarily occupied territory of Crimea. They are also actively engaged in gathering and transmitting military information.
It is this information that allows the armed forces of Ukraine to deliver precise strikes against enemy groupings.
They say that they provide information about air defense systems, warehouses, military bases, and troop movements, sometimes observing the targets for weeks.
In addition, our partisans in Donbas and Crimea are actively preparing the ground for the liberation of the regions seized by Putin. Thanks to their efforts, the occupiers never feel safe, neither in Donetsk nor in Mariupol, nor anywhere on the territory of the Crimean Peninsula. And as the armed forces of Ukraine inevitably advance on the front, the fear among Russians only grows.
Brothers and sisters, the military movement Atesh is preparing to liberate Crimea from the Rashists. We are near Jankoy, waiting for the armed forces of Ukraine. We have created dozens of caches with weapons, explosives, and ammunition. As soon as the armed forces of Ukraine cross the administrative border with Crimea, we will seize administrative buildings and military facilities.
The sky is locked down. Ukraine is activating the Iron Dome. Secret deliveries are on the way. Mega rockets are already approaching a mysterious turning point in the war. Ukraine is officially closing its airspace. A global air defense reform has begun. What once seemed impossible is becoming reality. The Ukrainian sky is turning into a deadly trap for the occupiers. Watch.
The president of Ukraine, Zelensky, stated that if Middle Eastern countries put pressure on Russia, Ukrainian specialists will help them build an effective air defense system. Ukraine is also ready to provide such assistance to its partners without any conditions.
The Middle East has close economic ties with the Russian Federation and exerts influence. If they send a signal to Russia to cease fire, for example, for a month or two, then we can send our specialists to protect the civilian population. For example, with the United Kingdom, we have a century-long security agreement. If, God forbid, there were strikes against such partners, or if they face certain risks, we would send our people.
In addition, Ukraine is ready to exchange its interceptor drones, which are more effective against Iranian Shaheds and are significantly cheaper, for missiles capable of shooting down ballistic targets.
Regarding the exchange of weapons, we are interested in this. We have our own capabilities, and you know what we produce. And there is a shortage, and countries in the Middle East, in principle, can help fill this shortage and solve our problems. That's why we will be ready for contact. My diplomats have received instructions from me, and they are communicating.
Do you remember just a few days ago, there was a report that the United States delivered a large batch of Patriot batteries to Saudi Arabia? And then in Kiev, many people were asking why they were supplying them with such a quantity. It's a peaceful country with no security problems. But for us, when Russia is pounding us every day and we desperately need these missiles, they neither supply nor sell them to us. Well, here's the answer to that question. Now, in Saudi Arabia, you might need air defense, even more than Ukraine, because strikes on Saudi Arabia's oil fields could provoke an economic crisis of such magnitude that no one would be able to get out of it. For decades. In
the Ukrainian air defense system, a shocking reform has taken place. Now critical infrastructure enterprises will be able to create their own air defense groups, and the state will provide them with ammunition. This was announced by Prime Minister Sviridenko.
Personnel will undergo training and certification at institutions designated by the Ministry of Defense. The Air Force Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine will be able to temporarily transfer air defense systems and ammunition to enterprises based on individual decisions for each enterprise. This concerns weaponry that is not currently being used by combat units. In the event that ammunition is used, replenishment will be carried out through a simplified procedure based on a statement of actual expenses.
At the same time, European partners have promised to find and purchase the missiles Ukraine needs for an unprecedented amount and to invest in interceptor drones.
Today there was an important initiative to collect PAC-3 missiles from stockpiles in Europe, because this is important and critical for our country right now. I am grateful for this initiative. I hope that we will see it very soon, the result of this initiative. But today we heard announcements totaling almost $38 billion. They are allocated precisely for air defense systems, for drones, for the development of drone assault units, for deep strike, and for interceptor drones.
But regarding air defense, there are also major concerns that a war with Iran will deplete stockpiles, and this could affect Ukraine as well.
On the less positive side, in my opinion, if the war drags on, there will be a shortage of air defense systems among Middle Eastern partners. You can see that they are using air defense systems against Shaheds. This suggests that there probably aren't as many missiles as there are Iranian drones. So, in any case, the consumption is very high. And therefore, yes, this is undoubtedly a risk for us in terms of quantity. No signals at all. So far, we have not received any regarding the reduction of programs, but we ourselves, thank God, are friends with logic and can understand what might happen, what risks there could be.
We can only hope that the war in the Persian Gulf will not be prolonged, because this would harm not only the ability to purchase air defense systems, but also energy prices, with all the resulting consequences.
Flamingos and pelicans are entering the fray. Ukrainian ballistics are wiping out the rear of the Russian Federation, and laser systems are cutting through Shaheds. It happened. Our engineers have performed a miracle. This is a real breakthrough for our defense industry, depriving the enemy of their last advantage. See the details.
Ukrainian missiles are striking at Russia's pride, the factories where Iskanders and Oreshniks are produced, as well as enterprises without which the Russian military-industrial complex cannot function.
The beautiful Ukrainian flamingos have now officially gone out on their daily hunt for food.
Just in the past week, Flamingo has proven that it exists and is real. Russians now truly need to be afraid for their defense industry plants, for their chemical industry, literally for every facility located within a radius of...
spanning over 2,000 kilometers. But, however...
Flamingo is a cruise missile, undoubtedly very powerful, but that was not enough. Now, however, Ukraine has the Royal Flash, something that can truly be called a breakthrough and a winning combination. A ballistic missile, its name is FP7, and its developer is Firepoint, the same company that produces the Flamingo. They announced the development of ballistic missiles back in September 2025, and now they've shown it. In action. According to the technical specifications, the FP7 has a strike range of 200 kilometers, a maximum speed of 1,500 meters per second, and a circular error probable of 14 meters. The warhead payload is...
It weighs exactly 150 kilograms in total.
If the FP7 goes into mass production for the front lines, it will also create huge problems. Because this means that conducting combat operations against Ukraine at the operational tactical level shifts to a completely different level, downwards for the Russians. Because all logistics hubs, headquarters, any logistics, railways, all of that is constantly under threat.
This means that the Russians will have to hide everything within at least a 200-kilometer radius, although playing hide-and-seek won't help. After all, Firepoint is also working on developing the FP9 missile with a range of up to 855 kilometers. This was also announced back in September. And we shouldn't forget about the Flamingo either. In parallel with offensive weapons, Ukraine is also working on the development of defensive air defense systems. A few weeks ago, it became known that Ukraine had created the Sunray laser system, which is used to destroy Russian drones.
This weapon easily fits in the trunk of a car, it makes no sound and emits no light. Not even that familiar red beam from the movies, when just the other day a team of Ukrainian soldiers and engineers showed me their prototype. It seemed quite easy to use to me. Almost too easy.
Undoubtedly another breakthrough, but even that is not enough. That is why official Kyiv has announced additional steps to strengthen air defense. According to Ukraine's Minister of Defense, Mikhailo Fedorov, Ukraine is now discussing the creation of joint consortia with partners to accelerate the production of anti-ballistic missiles.
We are critically short of PAC-3 type missiles for air defense to protect ourselves from Russian ballistic missiles. We also discussed with the President the creation of joint consortia with partners to produce anti-ballistic missiles more quickly.
At the same time, Kyiv is also working on destroying the Russians' offensive capabilities. Fedorov reported the destruction of a communication system that allowed Shaheds to attack northern Ukraine from Belarus.
We managed to eliminate the mesh network. This is a special type of network where each device acts as a relay for others, creating continuous coverage that was used by Shaheds in the north, which positively affected the defense capability of Kyiv and central Ukraine.
Fedorov did not disclose the details of the operation. However, it is definitely about the elimination of a facility on the territory of Belarus. This means that most likely yet another psychological barrier has been crossed. Kyiv can now conduct operations on Belarusian territory if the actions of Belarusians pose a threat to Ukraine. And now Lukashenko should consider whether the game is worth the candle.
It happened. A terrible disaster is tearing paradise apart. Nature has decided to put an end to Russia. The country is sinking under ice. A snow tsunami wipes Moscow off the map. The bunker doesn't save anyone. Cities turn into exclusion zones. Putin's favorite city was simply washed away by the Black Sea. See the details.
It's real chaos in Russia. Abnormal natural disasters and the collapse of emergency and utility services.
Horrible, just horrible. Well, it's horrible, but not.
Frost down to -60, snowfalls and the ongoing fuel shortage.
The Belarusian apocalypse? No electricity, no water, nothing works anywhere. Everyone's in a mess.
We're searching for gasoline. Belorochensk, January 2nd. This is the only gas station that has gasoline. I hope there will be enough for us and that we'll make it through this line. We've already been standing here for an hour.
People are melting snow to get drinking water, sitting in their apartments in sub-zero temperatures, while the authorities are completely ignoring the problems.
In the Tver region, there's been no electricity for almost 48 hours. No water, nothing at all. Maybe someone knows. Representatives of the Rossetti company, send them my reel. People here are dying, freezing to death. Are you even sane? Not a single crew is coming out here. All the roads are buried in snow. People can't get out at all. In
Belgorod, after the shelling, is in blackout. There's no heat and there won't be any until the end of the heating season. The governor just shrugs his shoulders.
There's nothing in the whole city.
All the actions our energy and heating workers have taken over the past 2 days still haven't led to the long-awaited result. We are making a decision regarding 455 single apartment buildings. In the buildings, we are starting to drain the heating systems. 25 kindergartens, 17 schools, 9 clinics, 4 universities.
There's no electricity not only in the frontline areas but also in the Moscow region.
And this entire part of the city is without power.
And even in those regions where Ukrainian drones can barely reach, a communal blessing. It's completely absent there and the power lines can't handle it and it's impossible to repair them as well.
Come on, glue it down just like this.
Dude. You can see everyone is freezing.
The administration isn't doing anything.
First, they froze people, and then the wiring couldn't handle it because the whole building was heating with electric heaters. Now they've turned off the electricity, too. 5 fire trucks have just arrived to put out the fire.
That's it. The tower's down. It's unclear how to pull Chantel out. It is located entirely on the bridges. They haven't even reached the damage yet. The damage is way over there.
A real apocalypse in Kamchatka. In the summer, the strongest earthquake since 1952.
Whoa, we are really shaking a bit now.
We're shaking. Marina, quiet.
Marina, calm down. It's okay, it's okay. Dear friends, let me remind you that we live in Kamchatka.
Step back.
And in winter, entire apartment buildings are literally buried in snow. What the authorities are doing at this time is a mystery. They don't even try to save people.
The residents of this entrance, I don't even know if they're lucky or not, but at least they won't have to make any extra effort to get home.
All they need to do is sit down on their butt and slide down on their feet, on their butt to be precise.
And they've arrived.
What does it look like from the inside? A little hole.
People are simply trapped in a snow prison. It's as if getting into the entrance is no problem.
No problem.
But climbing up this hill, sliding down on your butt is easy.
This is absolutely unbelievable. That is finally it. True freedom.
The environmental disaster in the Black Sea continues. 2 years after the tanker wrecks and the fuel oil spill, the Russian authorities still haven't dealt with the consequences.
Kolochevsky Beach. Look, Vladek, you just did this.
There's still blood flowing.
This is on the second side, they're really tiny.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, we, the residents of Anapa, the residents of Krasnodar Krai, the residents of our entire country, are asking you for help.
This is a cry from the heart.
The local authorities can't cope.
They don't have the resources for this. The only resource is ordinary people with shovels.
Mazut from the coast of Krasnodar Krai. Instead of disposing of it, they scoop it up with machinery or dump it in private areas. And soon summer will come again and the toxic spots will start to resurface and heat up in the sun.
What we cleaned up yesterday we packed into bags. Here it all is with these tractors.
Everything has been piled up, but nothing has been taken away.
Here are all these bags torn open. And the mazout has reached all the way to the walkway. We came and wondered, is there any point in collecting the bags if they're not being taken away?
Here are the bags from the beaches of the resort city of Anapa. They're being brought in and dumped on the ground in the village of Voskresensky, 24 Smolyanka Street. Here comes a truck to unload. Here is a private house right next to it. There are also private houses further down. And
of course, it's just around the corner. New floods, which the Russian authorities ignore year after year and don't even try to prevent.
My whole yard is underwater. That's nothing. There, the 5-story buildings are flooded up to the windows.
Literally up to the windows. Last night, everyone was evacuated. They broke windows and evacuated people through them.
In short, the first floor is already flooded.
The Russian Minister of Emergency Situations. They should have invited Putin here too.
A flood even in the pride of Russia, Sochi, where the dictator himself likes to vacation.
To be completely honest, I have absolutely never seen anything quite like this before in my entire life. It is truly remarkable.
we're sitting in the car. Just look at what's happening on Donskaya. This is a total disaster. We've got half the car already filled with water. Seriously, what is that over there?
We're just sitting here. Look, it's up to our balls.
It's obvious that the Russian authorities don't care about their own people. Let them sit in the cold and the mud without a roof over their heads. The main thing is to brag on TV about how great they are and to churn out more missiles to kill the people of a neighboring country.